Hello humans, this is Dr. Kai, and this is yet another video on how to make loads of money really quickly in Elite Dangerous. The internet is full of these, but this one I'm going to try and not exaggerate. I'll tell you exactly what I did. I made approximately 50 million per hour at my peak, and I made 1.2 billion actually, over the space of a week, spread across maybe 15 to 20 hours. And basically, just to summarize now how I did it, and then I'll go into more details, I stacked massacre missions in Civil War systems. I stacked as many as I could. I went out to a conflict zone and every single kill I got counted towards each mission, so I was able to knock them all off in one go, and they are very lucrative missions. They're about 10 million each, some of them, but they average between 3 and 10 million once you're allied with a faction. I took wing members to speed things up and it all went very, very swimmingly. Everything I do is completely legitimate. It doesn't require any exploits. I don't think Frontier plan on nerfing this because it well works within the framework of the game. It's not easy to set things up right, and it can be extremely frustrating, especially if you try and do it by yourself. But let's go into the details now. So the first thing you need to do is find the perfect system, and this can be quite frustrating. You need to satisfy several conditions. 1, the system needs to be at civil war or war. 2, the war or civil war needs to not be nearly over. 3, there needs to be a base near a conflict zone that has a military economy, as well as refuel, restock and repair. And 4, if you are also doing this to get rank reputation, the factions present need to be the right ones. So to do that, you should probably start by looking at the galaxy map and filtering out for war and civil war like this. Then, when you find one that's nearby, you should look at the system map and try to find out who is at war and find the right kind of station settlement. If you don't have the system data, you can find it on eddb.io/system. You search for the system and in the economy section, check for military. If it has it, try to locate it and see if it also has refuel, restock and repair. If you find the perfect system, you'd like to get a rough idea if the war is brand new or not. You can't know this unless you'd already been scouring the galaxy map for a few days and saw it pop up. But you can get a clue from how close the reputation is. If it is within a few percent, chances are the war has recently started. Or it could mean that players are trying to fight for one or both factions. Also, if eddb.io still hasn't got it listed as at war, then chances are it's also brand new. Neither is 100% reliable, but the point is the civil war lasts a minimum of 3 days, but usually not more than that. It ends when one of the factions has more than 3% influence over the other. The server updates the influence levels once a day around 6 PM game time, so basically you want to get there at the beginning of the war because you'll only have 3 days to take advantage of the state. So you found your system and station of choice, you go there, and you look at the mission board and you try to work out which faction is generally producing the most massacre missions. You won't really be able to work that out because it is random, but just pick one of your favourite or the one that applies to the rank you're trying to get or whatever. And just as a quick note, if there's both a civil war and a war, the conflict zones can only pertain to one, so you should go and check a conflict zone and see which 2 factions are fighting first. Then you want to get allied with that faction, because when you get allied, that's when you get the big missions. So the best way to do that, I find, is to first stack only a few missions, maybe 5 to 8. You can do this by flipping the board or just by being patient, maybe doing this during the day while you're doing other things. Also, no matter what, make sure you have full cargo space, because then you'll be able to get all the missions, including the ones that give you cargo, as they won't show if you don't have cargo space for them. And there'll never be more than 4 units. And then you head out to the conflict zone. They won't really be over like 10 to 15 kills. You get 10 or 15 kills, you come back, hand them in, then you should be friendly, especially once you hand in your combat bonds. Just remember to pick a side in the Civil War in order to get those combat bonds. And then you should be friendly, you should be getting even more missions, better ones. You do 5 of those and you'll be allied, again with more combat bonds. Once you're allied, this is where the money making starts. What you want to do is you never ever want to head out to the conflict zone without 20 missions stacked. Why is that? Because it's the most efficient. Every single kill you get counts to every single mission you've stacked. So you're saving more and more time the more missions you've got stacked. So stack 20, even if it takes an hour, do something else. Just keep logging into the game, checking what's there. Generally speaking, if it's a military economy, you may be getting none at all for a while, because that is what will happen. But then you'll have periods where you'll get 3 or 4 per board flip. And it really doesn't take long to stack 20, it really doesn't. So now a couple of tips about how to survive in the combat zone. The very first thing I would recommend is definitely try to get hold of a wing. Get someone else, okay? Doesn't matter what ship you're in, having someone else helps infinitely. Even if you're in an A-spec Corvette, having someone else to pick off those annoying NPCs who like to circle around you and joust and just waste your time, they can just take them out And if you're a weaker ship, it definitely helps to have someone to take the aggro away. Having a wing literally more than quadruples the efficiency. You can get, instead of 15 kills every hour, you get 45 kills every 15 minutes. I'm telling you, it's a massive difference. So try and get a wing and try and do this together with a friend. Definitely a great way to bond with someone. I have put some recommended builds of ships inside the description, so check those out. Basically, you want to go for an endurance build. You want to have a lot of shield cells, so two shield cell banks basically, and maybe enough heat sinks to keep cool for every time you fire one. A lot of chaff and a lot of shield points, so a lot of shield boosters, a very large shield. The key bindings that you definitely want to have bound are cycling between hostile targets, which is in the targeting section, and you also want to have the ability to select your wingman or wingmen and then select the target of the currently selected wingman. That's also in the targeting section. And speaking of wings, you do want to assign one person to pick targets, and you all want to always go for the same targets to speed up efficiency. You want to try and go for ships that are already quite damaged, because then you can just quickly kill them. The longer you are inside a combat zone, the more that happens. The higher intensity ones aren't harder, they just have a lot more ships, so you probably want to try and go for them if that's possible, although the low intensity ones aren't that bad. And another tip for when you actually enter the conflict zone, you want to make sure that you don't do anything for a good minute or two, because it takes a while for the ships to spawn in. Sometimes it takes a minute before everything's spawned in, and you want to make sure they all spawn in and start fighting each other before you pick a side. They won't attack you till you pick a side, but once you pick a side they will, but if they're all distracted then you should be safe. Anytime you get swamped by 5 or 6 different ships, you want to just hyperspace out there as quickly as you can. If you're in a light ship that can get mass inhibited, you want to do a high wake, so make sure you have another system targeted, and if you're in a heavy ship then you can usually low wake out of there, but that will happen from time to time, especially if you don't take the previous tip, and especially if you're not in a wing. A couple more tips. As an explorer I don't know much about combat, but I did pick these up from my wingmate just ago, and he taught me quite a few things. One of the things that I think is quite important is to know that you should really try and keep 4 pips and shields at basically all times. You want to quickly switch maybe to engines so you can turn quickly if a ship is trying to joust with you, but then put them back into systems, because that basically triples the strength of your shields compared to having no pips in there. And yeah, that's the key. So generally have nothing in engines, or maybe just one in engines, all in shields, and put as many as you need into weapons when you need them, and then put them back into shields. You'll get into a flow. I wouldn't worry too much about it, especially if you have one of the builds that I've put in the description. Remember, for the bigger ships you might want to go for the power plant, because if you get that down to 0%, it will immobilize them and potentially explode them on the spot. Go back and repair periodically, restock your ammo. You might want to collect the materials to synthesize the ammo, but otherwise just go back and restock. Try and aim it for every 30 kills or so, because that usually knocks off about 10 missions depending on what types you've collected. And then stock up more before you head out again. As I said it previously, you want to try and make sure you always have 20 missions stacked. And that is basically it. If you keep doing that, you should make a billion very quickly. It gets extremely frustrating. Every time that your friends aren't on, you try it yourself, you will find that you will get attacked by 18 NPCs in one go, just randomly for no reason. You'll find the game crashes a lot. You'll find all sorts of problems like that. But if you keep with it, you will burn yourself out by the time you make a billion, but having that billion will be worth it, and you will be proud in the knowledge that you did it without any exploits or cheating or anything like that. And yeah, as an explorer, this is a combat video, but I do want to add one little piece of exploration. You want to find a beautiful spot, and here's an example of one. I only took a screenshot, didn't take any video, and looking at this screenshot, this is just an amazing representation of the scale of the game. Obviously I'm not in Super Cruise. I've targeted the conflict zone, which was stunning, by the way. I really enjoyed it. That conflict zone, I worked it out, was about the diameter of Earth above the ring. So we were looking down a distance of the Earth below us to those rings. And from here you can see I'm doing 145 meters per second, which is about 300 miles an hour. And it will take me 108 days to get to that conflict zone. That's a third of a year. That's over 3 months. Can you imagine that? And that would actually happen. I could leave the game running at that and come back 3 months later and we'd get there. Although probably the gas giant would be a quarter of the way around the sun at that point. But anyway, the point is, this is an amazing opportunity, even for explorers, to have a bit of fun. So long, humans, and good luck. To the heavens to see what secrets they hold. Join me as I sail amongst the stars.